Federal Communications Commission reaffirming a 2022 decision to deny Elon Musk's Starlink internet service nearly $900 million in rural broadband subsidies earlier this week. The two Republican commissioners on the five-member FCC dissenting from the decision. Senior Republican FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr writing this in his dissent. Quote, after Elon Musk acquired Twitter and used it to voice his own political and ideological views without filter, President Biden gave federal agencies a green light to go after him. Today, the FCC adds itself to the growing list of administrative agencies that are taking action against Elon Musk's businesses. What's going on there at the FCC? Is this all political?
Yeah, there's a really concerning pattern here. As you just noted, the FCC back in 2020 awarded Elon Musk Starlink almost $1 billion to bring high-speed internet service to over 640,000 rural homes and businesses.
It's never been easy for Oklahomans to convince their cable providers to run miles of line to get high-speed internet to a handful of customers. But Elon Musk's new Starlink plan eliminates those cables.
Starlink deploy confirmed.
Instead, they beam you high-speed internet from space.
It's 3 instructions.
Yeah, it's basically like, don't touch it, and plug in these 2 boxes, and then plug in power, and then use your cell phone.
John Sizemore of SkyTook is an early Starlink adopter, and even though he's just 3 miles outside of town, he has no high-speed internet options.
I can't get Cox, but since I'm in Cox's area, they won't let Windstream move in, so I have no internet availability here. So there's a lot of people in this area that would probably be candidates for this.
And not just outside of SkyTook, many rural Oklahomans just don't have a high-speed option.
These are parts of the country that have had absolutely no internet service at all for far too long, or they've been stuck on copper line internet service up till then. In the FCC just this week, the full commission backtracked and revoked that $1 billion. And I think it fits what the Wall Street Journal has described as really a concerning pattern of regulatory harassment. This decision by the FCC doesn't make a lot of sense at all if you look at it through the lens of the facts or the law or even good policy. But it does make good sense, or at least it makes sense, if you go back to the White House. And last year, President Biden stood behind the podium inside the White House. It was adorned with the presidential seal. And President Biden said that Elon Musk is worth being looked into. A reporter said, how? And President Biden looked down and said, there's lots of ways.
Mr. President, do you think Elon Musk is a threat to U.S. national security? And should the U.S., and with the tools you have, investigate his joint acquisition of Twitter with foreign governments, which include the Saudis?
I think that Elon Musk's cooperation and/or technical relationships with other countries is worthy of being looked at. Whether or not he is doing anything inappropriate, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that it's worth being looked at. But that's all I'll say. There's a lot of ways. All right.
And there certainly are. Since then, we've seen the Department of Justice, the FAA, the Federal Trade Commission, the NLRB, even the Fish and Wildlife Service opening investigations into Elon Musk. And I think the pattern here fits, again, what the Wall Street Journal said, with this nothing more than regulatory harassment.
Yeah, let's look at the Journal's op-ed this morning, and that is titled, "The FCC Ambushes Musk's Starlink." And that's exactly what they write. Add the Federal Communications Commission to the gang of Biden regulators targeting Elon Musk. On Tuesday, the agency invoked dubious grounds to scrap funding for his Starlink satellite service. It's not even like he missed any deadlines, right? They're actually moving the goalposts and saying, well, we're going to revoke this money now because we don't believe that he's keeping to his targets.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We at the FCC didn't have any obligation imposed on Elon Musk or Starlink until the end of 2025. That was the first point in time in which they provide any service at all to these 640,000 people. And yet, to your point, the FCC has moved up the goalpost and said, because you're not providing that service today, even though they had no reason to be providing the service today, we're going to yank back all of this funding. And again, remember that, the administrative state is very powerful right now in D.C., and it's been controlled by Democrats for approaching 12 of the last 16 years. And what's simply not credible about this FCC decision is, as you noted, on the one hand, we're saying, we have some doubts about this. It's not necessarily a reliable technology. But that's belied by the fact that the U.S. government is entering into multi-million-dollar contracts with Elon Musk, with Starlink, for high-speed connectivity when it matters the most, for military operations and otherwise. So it simply isn't credible for the FCC to be claiming that they have concerns about this technology when other components of the federal government are leaning in so heavily. And look, the real loser here is going to be rural America. Elon Musk is going to be fine. The $900 million isn't that big a deal to him. But we had millions of Americans that were guaranteed to get high-speed service that now the FCC has taken that commitment, vaporized it, and replaced it with nothing. And look, if the federal government ever does come back and make another commitment to serve these rural communities, it's going to cost us a lot more money. Instead of $900 million, my math shows that to get fiber there, for instance, it's going to cost north of $3 billion. So it really doesn't make sense on the merits here.
That's about as Washington, D.C. as it gets.